Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to start a new build series. Right behind me is a 1979 Toyota Hilux long bed 4x4 that I bought back in December. So today's video we're going to be going over the overview, why I bought this, and what parts I've got for it, you know, what needs to be done on it, all that sort of thing. So to start, I've already said this is a 1979 Toyota Hilux pickup, and I bought this truck back in December of 2020. So it's been a few months, and it's got some bits and pieces on it. Right now it has a 1986 22R E in it, but it has a 22R valve cover, and it's set up for running on a carburetor. But we're going to change that, and the reason we're going to change that is because I also bought alongside this truck a 1987 Toyota 4Runner parts chassis. So here's a picture of it on the screen. And I pulled that apart, more on that later, but basically I have enough stuff for an Efi swap from that chassis and a bunch of little extra bits that I'm going to need that'll hopefully work on this truck. The truck is in a bit of a rough state. It's sat. It hasn't been registered since 2008. I bought this from a guy named Ken, and I also bought the parts chassis from him as well because he was using parts from that 4Runner to put into his buddy's 4Runner that he was also working on, which was super clean. I got to see it in person and it was pretty sick. This is a truck that was the first generation of 4x4 pickups from Toyota in America. I went to initially go see the parts chassis, the 4Runner, because I was like, oh, maybe I'll buy it and part it out. I've got friends that are looking to build their trucks and they're gonna need parts and that sort of thing. And so I figured, I'll go see it and, you know, see what's up. The parts chassis was listed for whatever amount of money on Craigslist, and it was pretty close, like within 5 miles. So I went to go and see it. So I get there and I'm just checking it out and, you know, kind of learning some things about it from Ken, the guy selling it. And he's like, oh, I've also got this, you know, 79 that I'm thinking about selling. And it was super cool. I was there with Ryan and decided, oh, you know, we'll let you know about the parts chassis. And then he called me up later. He's like, yeah, I would sell the, you know, the blue truck. And so I was like, okay, that's cool. He's also building a yellow truck. I'm not going to show the picture of it, but it's like a same generation of this, short bed, lifted like 3 or 4 inches on 35s, and it had lockers and all that good stuff. But anyway, so we were deciding, and then I finally ended up buying both of them, brought them home, put them in the yard, and that's how it went. So I have wanted to build a Toyota pickup, and I guess a lot of people think that Toyota pickups are for like young kids, and you know, they just want to drive around and lift it in city, you know, in the town and whatever. That's not what this build is going to be about. This build for me is going to be, you know, learning. I haven't done many massive projects on a car. I only did suspension for the first time in 2019 with Miles when I lifted his Nissan Pathfinder. That video is on this channel as well, and I learned a lot since then. And then we lifted our 80 Series Land Cruiser, which you guys saw in some previous videos. That was kind of like we had just taken it out, went with Miles and his Pathfinder to an off-road, off-highway park and messed around a little bit. So we did that. More on that car and build project later. But this is going to be my build. The goal is to learn and kind of, you know, I don't know how to explain it. The goal is to learn and try something that I haven't done before, which is like a lot of like motor work and putting things together and making things work. And there's going to be wiring and all that sort of good stuff. So I'm excited for that. And so that's why I kind of decided to get this project. And on top of that, Ken also told me that the Efi Swap is pretty easy, and I think it will be. I just have to deal with the computer stuff, like the ECU and, you know, the wiring and making sure that all works. Mechanically, I think putting things together, I can figure that out pretty good. But, you know, this will be a new adventure, and I'm pretty excited about it. Anyhow, let's dive into what parts I have and what you see behind me. So first off, I think we should start with a shot of the front of the truck. Yes, there were the side bezels there. My brother Nathaniel and I, we took some wiring out of the truck the other day, just to kind of prepare it for the next few episodes and whatever. for the build, but it had the side marker things on this side as well, but it's got the bull bar. I have the original bumper, the chrome bumper. It's sitting right there where my finger is in that parts pile, but it's not on the truck right now. This is pretty much sitting how I got it. The underside is not in amazing shape. Ken, the previous owner, repainted the frame and had plans for this truck and all sorts of stuff. So he was explaining to me that he painted the frame. Obviously the axle isn't painted, but he painted the frame. I honestly, it's nice he painted the frame, but I don't know if he cleaned up any of the like rusty bits underneath it, like this kind of stuff, like take a wire brush and kind of clean the surface a little bit. So that to me is questionable, but that's how the underside sits right now. We'll go to under the hood. Hood latch is not connected, by the way. Okay, so this is what's under the hood of the car right now. That is a 22RE. Don't let the valve cover fool you. Or 22R. Basically, they're the same thing. One is carbureted and one is fuel injected. And plus or minus a few little differences for the nitpicky people. I don't personally know 100% what the difference between a 22R and a 22RE is, besides the carburation and that sort of thing. So don't roast me in the comments. I'm learning. This car originally came with a 20R engine. There's a diagram that's fading away. But anyway, this is what's under the hood of it currently. Got the AC compressor there, the carburetor. If you're wondering where all the wiring is, I pulled that out with my brother Nathaniel the other day, and it's gone basically out the dash, and it's sitting in the driver's seat over there on the bench seat. But this is what we're working with here. This motor right now in this truck has 99,000 miles according to Ken, and the timing chain guides or whatever have already been done. It's timed and all that good stuff. And if I remember correctly, he said that he's driven on this motor, so he says it's ran fine before. So I'll have to take his word for it. But that's kind of how it sits right now. What else do I have to say? There's gonna be a lot of work involved with the Efi swap and all that. It should be pretty straightforward. But there's just things that need to be cleaned up, lines and all that sort of stuff. And I am nitpicky on some details, so this might take longer, and this might be quite a few episodes to get through the whole process. But then again, I just have a different attention to detail than some other people, and I like things a certain way. Maybe a lot of people don't. So you're gonna see a lot of that if you want to follow this build series. But anyway, this is how it sits. The brakes are not bled. The clutch is not bled as well. There's just stuff everywhere. Oh yes, and there are long tube headers in it right now. I got the long tubes with the truck, and I just test fitted them the other day because I was bored, just to see how they would fit. So yeah, we'll have some long tubes at some point. But that's the least of our worries. We got other things to take care of here. Just lines and plenty of things to do. There's no front drive shaft either. If you can see through that to the diff, not quite, but anyway, just wires and kind of stuff everywhere. But that's kind of the state of under the hood. Moving on to the side of the truck, the fender, or at least the driver's side fender's pretty beat up, but I'm sure I can get a new fender, no problem. This transmission was out of the 4Runner. It's currently for sale. It's just sitting on this little dolly cart. So I'm not gonna be using that at all. It's got a transfer case on it. It's on Craigslist. Hopefully somebody will buy it so I can get it out of the way. The wheels are the factory 15 by 5.5, I believe, wheels. And they got the worn front hubs, locking hubs. The shocks, I'm not sure. That doesn't matter. We'll deal with that eventually. But let's move on to the inside of the car. All right, now inside the cab, this is what we're working with. This harness was the one I was talking about that came out of the engine bay, and the dash. I took that out with my brother Nathaniel the other day, so that's why it's sitting here. It's not going to be used because I have the harness from the 4Runner that I pulled apart, and we'll be using that with the 22RE and all that stuff and make it work somehow. We'll figure it out. Anyway, that's just why it's sitting here. It's got the factory 4-speed transmission over there, which is hard to see because this camera doesn't want to focus. Let's see if I can get it to focus right there. Nope. There we go. Nope. So right there is the factory 4-speed manual that's been rebuilt. I think it's an L43 transmission. I'll put the info on the screen. So that's there. The hole that's cut there, I'm not sure what that was for. I think that was to fit a 5-speed, a different 5-speed. But it's a mess. We're gonna have to take care of that. The floor obviously has rust in places, and has definitely seen better days. So there's that too. The bench seat's not even, bolted down or anything like that. So I'm gonna have to figure out what I'm gonna do with the rust. But I have the steering column, blinkers, stuff, dash pieces. I've got dash pieces in here as well. I got a cluster, like an odometer and tack and all that over there. It's just stuff everywhere. The door cards have definitely seen better days, but I'm not too worried about that because the door cards, they're made of like particle board and they just suck anyway. So those are gonna come off, and we won't have to deal with those. I'll come up with some sort of solution for them. It'll probably just be like straight up metal, like sheet metal or some sort of door card that you would see in like drift cars or something. Just make it plain and simple, put a latch, just be able to roll the window up and down and make some sort of armrest or something. But that's the current state of the cab. Nothing fancy. Obviously this whole project's gonna need a lot of help, so but that's part of it. So over here is the parts table. Most of this came off the 4Runner that I tore apart, and so we'll go over that super quick. We have our air intake box with the mass airflow sensor somewhere on there, the intake tubing, bucket of bolts. I gave up at some point just trying to label and organize them. Most of the bolts are pretty similar, so what I'm going to end up doing is getting like a bolt organizer, like the DeWalt little thing they have at Lowe's or Home Depot, and then start labeling them by the size of the head of the bolt. So you'll just go over, pick up whatever you need and move on, and try and do it to the best I can. Some stuff in a bag there, not really quite sure what that is. There's some like connectors and bits of things just sitting on this table. That should have gone in the box in the bed of the truck, but more on that in a little bit. Master cylinder lines and stuff right there. My license plate, that's pretty beat up. I'm gonna have to get a new one anyway and or change it. Tilt steering column that I pulled, I think it was either this one or that one I pulled out of the 4Runner. But anyway, there's the tilt column, which I do want to use in the truck because that would be a nice thing to have, and it should be a pretty straightforward swap. And then I have the steering box, the IFS steering box out of the 4Runner. So I said there's a way to use it. I'm not sure what that way is right now, but I'd like to figure that out, and I guess it'll be easier to turn. It won't be as hard as with the solid axle if we use this steering gear or something like that. Anyway, I got an e-brake assembly down there, a latch, just kind of misc parts all over the table. Below the table, I have the factory chrome front bumper for this truck. Chances of me using it are very low because A, it's really beat up, and B, I got that bull bar, which I can just mount turn signals to because the factory bumper has the turn signals. There's the torque converter for that automatic transmission over there. Radiator. Under this is the front diff from the 4Runner. and drive shafts that I pulled off the 4Runner. That's the 4Runner long rear drive shaft, and there's a front drive shaft over there. This truck is gonna need a front drive shaft, so I'll see if I can make the short one from the 4Runner work. Also, I think I have a 4Runner sway bar right there. I think that's from the 4Runner, but it was in the back of the truck and parts stuff that I got with both these vehicles. That's the shifter assembly for that transmission over there, which is an A340H. I think I mentioned that earlier. And then this transmission, I don't remember the exact model right now, but I'll put like the code for it on the screen. It's a 5-speed and it needs to be rebuilt. I got that for free. So I guess we'll go on a journey of learning how to rebuild a transmission as well. But if anybody has ideas and stuff, leave them down below in the comments. I would love to see what you guys would want to see me do with the truck. But a 5-speed would be nice to have in the future. I think that's a G52 or something. Anyway, let's move on to the bed of the truck. All right, so let's hop into the bed of the truck here. There's my shadow. The lighting is kind of harsh, so I apologize if you guys cannot quite see some of the detail that I can see. I'm doing my best to film and talk at the same time. But anyway, this is the bed of the truck. There are rust holes. Yeah, I mean, what did I expect? I got myself into an old truck that sat for a long time. Washer reservoirs, like washer fluid, all that crap. Carburetor that probably needs more love than a rebuild. You know, stuff here, like for the canister, the ASV valve, just some of the vents for the AC. I don't think this truck had AC, but I need to look at the trim again. I haven't really paid attention to what exactly trim this truck was and what it had from the factory. But anyway, I have those pieces. Those are the factory headers, or at least the headers that were on that 8622R RE motor in the truck right now. So those are off, they're just sitting. And there's just things everywhere. So I have the lights, tail lights here. The shield, like shields and brackets are in that box. There's just like washers and stuff in that box there. And there's the license plate, beat up license plate. And underneath that box, I believe is, it's either that box is suspension or hoses. And this box is either suspension or hoses, just stuff like that. Some other harness right here, haven't really identified it yet. So anyway, I have the factory cats for the 79 I have the factory cat for the 79, and then that is the 87 4Runner cat there. These are the downpipes, and I have a muffler, charcoal canisters in the corner here, and this is an EFI gas tank. So that's kind of what I have in the bed. There's like an e-brake cable here or something like that. So that's kind of what's in the bed of the truck. Just parts waiting to be used. We'll take a quick look at the bottom of the truck. Nothing fancy. It's gonna need help. Obviously, I said earlier, the bed has rust through it in places. Again, the factory 15 by 5.5 wheels. There's just a lot of work that needs to be done. I don't currently know how to weld, so that's going to be a different story to deal with the rust and whatnot, because the floor has rust too. The e-brake cable, this lens is struggling to focus on it, but the e-brake cable over there is not connected. That's something that, or tensioned correctly or whatever. So that needs to be addressed, because the only way to stop these cars right now is to just put blocks down. So yeah. The leaf springs have seen better days. I guess these are Rancho shocks in the rear. I'm not sure. Gas tank's there, rear drive shaft is there. The front, that transfer case was rebuilt along with the transmission, so Ken has told me that's all done. I need a front drive shaft, which I'll try and use the 4Runner one, but we'll see. All right, last piece here that I have that's kind of important, besides the wiring harness, which you guys won't see. It's just sitting in the garage with my toolbox. But this is the 22RE out of the 87 4Runner that I pulled out. Yes, I did go to Harbor Freight and get a crane and a stand, so you can roast me in the comments for getting Harbor Freight stuff. But anyway, this is the 87 22RE. It's got like 130,000 miles on it, and I'm gonna need the EFI parts off of it. So it's been sitting under a tarp, which is why it's got some of that like weird flaky stuff all over it. That's from the tarp, because the tarp is pretty much disintegrating. But anyhow, it's got the engine harness, which has been, I don't know, whoever was messing with it just, yeah, I don't like that. So that needs to be addressed, but basically I'll need the EFI bits off of this and whatever I'll need to pass smog. That truck hasn't been smogged yet. So I have a carburetor waiting inside that I need to put on to smog it so I can get a title and that sort of stuff. Just get it to run enough to pass. So, and then we'll deal with the Efi Swap. And that's kind of why I have this motor. Now, some of you are probably, well, why bother with the Efi Swap? Well, if I drive this truck, you know, anywhere at altitude and stuff, yes, a carburetor will work all right, but I just like the simplicity in a way of EFI, knowing that I can sit in the car, it's gonna run better, more consistent, and that sort of stuff, which will be nice. And B, I think EFI is just better, and I personally don't want to mess with carburetors. Yes, they're easy to tune and whatever, but that's just not the way I want to do things. And plus, I haven't really seen many videos online of like people doing conversions like this. I've only seen like done conversions, but not like people documenting the conversions, at least in video form. So I think that'll be super cool. And I have everything I pretty much need here, which is pretty sweet. So yeah, that's kind of it for the motor. And that's what's gonna happen with the truck. So if you have any suggestions for me or comments, leave them down below. I want to know what you guys think, or new viewers or whatever. If you guys want to subscribe and follow along on this build, this video is kind of an overview, but I'm gonna document my process of, you know, doing work on it and all that sort of stuff, just to keep kind of like a build history and video history of it. But yeah, if anybody has suggestions or wants to like reach out to me to help me, leave them down below in the comments. I would really appreciate it. This is like my first ever massive project on a car. I haven't done anything involving like swapping wiring or motors or anything like that. This is all a very first time for me. Pulling that engine out, that 22RE on the stand was a first, transmission first. So a lot of this stuff is a first for me. Yes, I have worked around cars, but I'm not, you know, by any means a mechanic. If some of you guys have seen the 7th Gen Accord series, like that was the first time I've pulled off a valve cover, and that was close to a year ago now, and just getting my Honda Accord sorted. So this kind of big project, the goal for me is to learn a lot, and that's really what I want to do. Learn with whether it's wiring or, you know, mechanical stuff. So I'm super excited about that. And I'd appreciate anybody's help, you know, in the comments or sourcing parts or, you know, whatever I may need. You know, I know there's some awesome people out there online that love this kind of stuff and love to help others. So if you're one of those and you come around the comments, I'm going to say thank you beforehand, because I'm going to need it. But yeah, so between working on tech and computers and projects and stuff, we got a car project, and it's a rather massive one. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you follow the build series.